A long time ago, somewhere in ancient China, a pair of peacocks ruled with a fair hand, guiding their people in a time of prosperity and joy of colors in the form of fireworks. However, their son Shen discovered that this fun could be used as a weapon and set out to rule China with it. Shen's parents then consulted a divine, and she told them that their son would be stopped by a black and white warrior. Upon learning of this, Shen massacred a population of pandas, forcing a mother to abandon her child in a box full of radishes, a box that would reach the valley where the Furious Five trained, setting in motion a whole series of events that would culminate in the baby panda becoming the legendary dragon warrior who would defeat the most dangerous adversaries throughout China. However, the interesting thing about the matter is that Master Wu Wei seemed to be able to see this whole chain of events and understand something called chaos theory very well. Hello dear geekers, how are you? I am Go the Geek Monitor, and I welcome you to a new entry of Beyond the Obvious, a series of videos in which I analyze children's movies in depth to discover their hidden meaning. Today I will tell you about how the Kung Fu Panda movie talks to us about the butterfly effect and chaos theory. Perhaps these movies were not written with this in mind, but if we analyze them, we can realize that there are very interesting details in these seemingly children's movies. The word chaos is used to talk about something that has no order. In this way we understand it, and in this way we use it. But what if chaos is not something in disorder? What happens if chaos is simply an order that we do not have the ability to see? This is one of the foundations of chaos theory. In theory, if a person, let's say Master Oogway, could somehow understand a chaotic system, he might be able to predict the future and choose a passing panda as the dragon warrior. However, to do this, Oogway first had to be familiar with a concept called the butterfly effect. Chapter 1. The butterfly effect. There's an old Chinese proverb that says the fluttering of a butterfly could trigger a tornado on the other side of the world. Sure, maybe it's an exaggerated way of looking at it. But what this Chinese proverb is telling us is that a chain of small events can have huge consequences. And this is a theme that frequently appears in the Kung Fu Panda movie. Let's look at it this way. Oogway has a vision of Tai Lung escaping from prison. When he tells Shifu about it, Shifu sends a messenger to the prison to tell them to take precautions. When the goose messenger arrives at the prison, the rhino in charge is offended to learn that Shifu thinks Tai Lung could escape and checks the security. He hits the messenger's back to check the security. In doing so, he hits the messenger's back, causing a feather to reach Tai Lung, who uses it to escape from prison. When Tai Lung defeats the Furious Five, Po begins his journey to become the Dragon Warrior, a path that leads him to defeat Tai Lung, Shen, and later Kai, to bring China into a new era of prosperity. The concept of the butterfly effect was accidentally discovered by mathematician Edward Lorenz in 1960, who was trying to predict weather patterns using a series of algorithms on a computer of that time. According to the story, Lorenz had made some calculations using the number 0.506127. When he wanted to repeat his calculations, he rounded this figure to 0.506, thinking that such a small variation would not greatly influence the final result. His surprise was that the results were dramatically different. Lawrence, when analyzing the data, saw that there were patterns that repeated themselves. When analyzing the data, he saw that there were patterns that repeated themselves over and over again, and concluded that in certain situations, a very small variation at the beginning, like the flutter of a butterfly, can make the results dramatically different, like a tornado on the other side of the world. The curious thing is that when he plotted his results, the lines precisely formed this figure similar to a butterfly. Oogway says that one often finds his destiny on the path he takes to avoid it. And he's right. If Shifu hadn't sent the messenger to prison or even blown out the candles so quickly, the outcome might have been different. Poe's life and all of China's might have been very different. What Lawrence then discovered were chaotic systems. Systems like life itself, where small variations mean a very different outcome that even computers are not capable of predicting, because they would need an infinite number of decimals to be able to do it. However, in a certain way, Oogway, Shifu, and Po are able to do it through inner peace, as they seem to find a way to flow in a certain way, to see through the chaos and use this ability for their purposes. For Shifu, it is very difficult to understand the concept that nothing in life is an accident, that there is an order in the universe that we are not capable of understanding, let alone controlling. However, if we take a look at nature, we can find that there are patterns that repeat themselves over and over again. Let's take as an example a sequence of numbers called the Fibonacci sequence. You get this sequence from 0 and 1. If you add these two numbers, you get a third number, in this case a 1. Then you add the last two numbers to get a new one, and so on to infinity. The relationship between the numbers in this sequence gives us something called the golden ratio, a proportion that has been used a lot in art throughout history. In fact, even nature seems to have this proportion. From snails to parts of our body and even galaxies seem to form using the golden ratio. So much so that some call it God's number. The important thing here is that the behavior we consider random, like the growth of tree leaves, actually has very structured consequences. In fact, several experiments demonstrate the order behind chaos. One of them is the double pendulum, where it seems impossible to predict how the pendulum will move. However, when graphing this movement, we see how patterns and more defined figures appear. In Kung Fu Panda 2, we see how Shifu moves in such a way that a drop passes through his entire body. In a way, he has already learned here that he has to flow with nature and the order of things, instead of wanting to maintain the illusion of control. At the end of this movie, we see how Po takes this ability to the limit when he is able to deflect the bullets that Shen throws at him. In these two examples, we can see that they are already capable of seeing a bit through the chaos and predict where the droplet or the bullet will be, and how to move to use this to their advantage. However, it is Oogway who is able to see the order of life on a large scale. It was he who chose Po as the dragon warrior. It was he who told Shifu that accidents do not exist. And it was he who told Kai in Kung Fu Panda 3 that it was not his destiny to stop him, but that he had set the pieces in motion for someone else to do it, thus triggering a butterfly effect that would lead to Po to defeat three of the greatest rivals that China has ever known. Chaotic systems like life are full of variables, and every event, no matter how small, has the potential to yield completely different results in life. That's why even with today's technology, we can't accurately predict things like the weather. So many paths to choose from with so many different outcomes for our life can seem overwhelming. And the fact is that even not choosing is a choice in itself. This makes us think that maybe it would be a good idea to have Oogway's ability to decipher chaos. However, we can take small tips from him, like the fact that when the waters are turbulent, it is harder for us to find the answers. Or maybe we can find comfort in the fact that accidents do not exist, and that our own existence is already a chaotic miracle, like turning oxygen into gold. Don't go yet. If you liked seeing Kung Fu Panda with different eyes, I recommend you watch my video about Megamind and meritocracy. I also invite you to follow me on Instagram, where I just uploaded other examples of the golden ratio in art and nature. That's all for today. I'm Go, the Geek Monitor, and see you later.